What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and this may be the biggest censorship bombshell I've been able to share with you in a very long time. Now, I will tell you, I will warn you up front, it gets convoluted, but stick with me because it is a massive deal. And I know a lot of people, I probably won't even put quote unquote Twitter files in the title because people are like, oh, who cares about that anymore? But this is so much more than that. I think it was a mistake to label it that from Michael Schellenberger, but excellent report from the entire team, not just Michael Schellenberger, but Matt Taibbi and Alex Gutenberg. Gutenberg. Anyway, the name's always funny to me. It's the CIA, okay? The CIA is the most famous of 18 United States government agencies that comprise the intelligence community, comprised of the intelligence community. So he refers to the IC throughout this thread. That's the intelligence community. That's like your CIA, Homeland Security, FBI, all border people. I'm assuming ICE. They're all part of that. Unlike the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the law strictly prohibits CIA employees or contractors from spying upon or running clandestine operations against American citizens on U.S. soil. Pause for laughter. Of course, they're doing that. Of course, they've always done that. They will always continue to do that. We are, in many ways, prisoners in our own country if you're an American citizen. If you haven't yet, leave a like on the video for one laugh at the idea that the CIA is not spying on you. But now, a new Twitter file investigation reveals that a member of the board of trustees of the CIA's mission-driven venture capital firm and ostensibly former intelligence community and CIA analysts were in fact involved in a 2021 to 2022 effort to take over Twitter's content management system. And it extends, stick with me, to PayPal, YouTube, Amazon. Essentially, the CIA wanted to control the entire internet. I'm oversimplifying, but I want to keep you here so I can. It's a kind of a weird long thread. The effort also included a longtime intelligence community contractor and senior Department of Defense R&D official who spent years developing technologies to detect whistleblowers, inside threats, like Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks. The proposed head of DHS's aborted Disinformation Governance Board, remember Nina Jankowicz, who aided the U.S. military and NATO in hybrid war operations in Europe, Jim Baker, which many of you remember, who as a FBI's general counsel helped start the Russiagate hoax, as well as Twitter's deputy general counsel urged Twitter executives to censor the New York Post story about Joe Biden's son. These existing or former intelligence community employers, contractors, and intermediaries were not satisfied with simply controlling Twitter. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like, this is how crazy it is. They also wanted to use PayPal, Amazon Web Services, and Godaddy in a totalizing effort to deplatform, demonetize, and excommunicate from the internet entirely those individuals that the intelligence community at all deemed to be a quote-unquote threat. I don't know this for a fact, but, this is just some hypotheticals out there on certain platforms that aren't so friendly. I mean, would you think that maybe people saying that, talking about the origins of the COOF, how do you think they would have viewed you, right? We saw the deplatforming that went on around that. We saw the deplatforming that went on around the jab. We saw a deplatforming about people talking about what was going on in the 2020 election. All this kind of stuff. I mean, only one side, obviously, but, heaven forbid you make a meme about, voting early, you're in federal prison, right? There's much we still do not know about the effort. We do not know its officials within the CIA or the intelligence community organization that ran the operation. It is possible that only the individuals involved in the effort were the ones we discovered, and none of the individuals involved responded to our request for information except one. But thousands of pages of Twitter files and documents contained therein paint a clear picture of an organized operation by existing or former intelligence community employees and contractors using well-established intelligence community tradecraft to take control of Twitter's content moderation. This is on a whole nother level from, FBI, intern Elvis Chan emailing Twitter to have them deplatform people. This is way bigger than that. It extends to Amazon, PayPal, Godaddy, the entire internet. Our investigation comes at the moment when governments and intelligence agencies around the world are stepping up their efforts to monitor and censor citizens. It thus has large implications for policymakers in the public in Western nations that look to the United States as a model for free speech and citizen control of the military. This is a joint public investigation. So here we go. You ready for this? We may talk about this on tonight's live stream at 5:30 Eastern because there's so much to go through. And I know if I upload a 25-minute video, people will just say, I'm not watching all that. I'm not Tim. That said, Nina Jankowicz and the Althea Group, before the intelligence community attempts to infiltrate Twitter and control its content moderation, several of the operatives involved made a case for treating, quote, disinformation as a national security threat that requires intelligence and military tactics to combat. On June 11th, 2020, a little-known book publisher published Nina Jankowicz's How to Lose the Information War, Russia, Fake News, and the Future of Conflict, which argues for InfoWar, like the kind the U.S. government waged in Ukraine and Eastern Europe. In her book, Jankowicz compares the lack of regulation of speech on social media regulations to the lack of government control, regulation of automobiles in the 60s. She calls for a cross-platform and public-private approach, so whatever accusations are taken by Google, Facebook, and Twitter simultaneously, whatever actions are asked for, they are taken by the entire internet. Jankowicz points to Europe as the model for regulating speech. Yeah, no thanks. Germany's NetzDG law requires social media companies and other content hosts to remove obviously illegal speech. There is no illegal speech within 24 hours, she says, or face a fine up to $50 million. Well, Germany also, and I love my German viewers, but I'm pretty sure they just decriminalized CP. So I don't really want to hear from the Germans on this, okay? By contrast, in the United States, she laments Congress has yet to pass a bill imposing even the most basic of regulations related to social media and election advertising. They shouldn't be passing any. This is, one of Trump's first, this is something Styx Hexenhammer has talked about. I've talked about Internet Bill of Rights. Donald Trump talked about it in one of his earliest videos in the, for the uprising campaign. We need it. We need an Internet Bill of Rights more than ever. Or we need, some combination of that as well as reform/enforcement of Section 230. The purpose of her book is to sound the alarm and offer a vision. The Biden-Harris administration can and should take up many of the solutions outlined in this book, she writes. If the West is to win the information war, we need a whole-of-society response, like the U.S. and NATO use in Eastern Europe. She praises a NATO cybersecurity expert for having created a center of excellence. If that term sounds familiar to close observers of censorship industrial complex, it might be because of Renee DiResta, of Stanford Internet Observatory in 2021 promoted a center of excellence in the Department of Homeland Security video she recorded in which she made the case for a disinformation governance board Jankowicz would later briefly head up until the internet mocked her from existence. 1 year later, Jankowicz would work with anti-disinformation consulting firm to Twitter staffed by former intelligence community analyst. Its name was Althea Group. Again, this is not just Twitter. This is the biggest expose of the biggest, most all-encompassing censorship plan ever, and it was perpetrated by the United States government against its citizens in violation of the First Amendment and many other laws. A CIA analyst guide to spotting fake news. Why are they all women? Anyway, on July 28, 2020, a little-known teen and young adult book publisher released True or False, a CIA analyst guide to spotting fake news by Cindy Otis. Guess what? Another former CIA analyst. I had wanted to work for the CIA almost my entire life, she writes. Lies. Nobody does, unless they grew up watching American Dad, maybe. Almost all governments, including the United States, have used fake news as a weapon to influence events in other countries. Now, I want to stop there. I want to point out, before I get too deep, the TLDR of this is that they tried to create a censorship arm that could simultaneously effectively erase anyone or any idea that they wanted from the internet in its entirety. Okay? Websites, YouTube, debank, depaypal. Amazon, no web hosting, right? Which is obviously in direct violation of multiple laws. They did this out in the open. They did it with impunity. They did it with the help of places like Facebook and at time Twitter. The rub here is that, yes, there is actually real misinformation. It exists. But we also know, if you're just a listener, I'm doing some air quotes, we know what's far more common is misinformation, which is just inconvenient information or information that has yet to be proven true or false, right? I don't need to go back very far. Everybody's very familiar with many things that were called misinformation during the lockdown era that we now know are absolutely true. People were banned from social media, fired from their jobs for suggesting, the origin of the thing. Now we all know, as a general rule, it's accepted. Okay? Continues. Another woman. Disinformation will become the next iteration of warfare. By the way, propaganda has always existed. What's with all these idiots thinking they're reinventing the wheel? On July 9th, 2020, Kaplan records a podcast. The next iteration of warfare, she says. A lot of the ways that this is approached, at least from a defensive perspective, is a lot of the same lessons that we learned from counter intelligence and social media, she explains. Where are the Terry guys' chat rooms trying to recruit people to do this stuff? I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys in your audience that history of warfare, but when we think about the fact that governments have always had a monopoly on the mechanisms needed to conduct war, and then, obviously, we have had the emergence of Terry's, and it feels like this next iteration of warfare, in the sense that their tactics to cause chaos, these tactics sow discord, they're more diffuse, right? So they're talking about, bad guys might use misinformation. We have to take everybody's rights away because one Terry out in the desert might spread information that is misleading. Again, they try to censor the entire internet. I'm being asked by Schumer's NSA if we have been in touch with Obama. At 5:22 p.m., July 15th, 2020, the Twitter account for then presidential candidate Joe Biden retweeted, "I'm giving back to the community. All Bitcoin sent to the address," so he's obviously hacked, right? Similar fake spam tweets had been sent from accounts belonging to Barack Obama, Michael Bloomberg, and Elon Musk. Wrote a senior attorney for Twitter, and being asked by Schumer's NSA, National Security Advisor, if we've been in touch with Obama. Matt Masterson from DHS called me on my personal cell. Didn't even know he had my number. They all have your number. He's been in touch with the Biden campaign. He offered to help in whatever way you want, offer a forensic analysis. Then, in October 2020, Twitter executive emailed then CEO Jack Dorsey to say, Mudge signed. What is Mudge? Well, Zatko turned whistleblower sued the company. Sorry, attitudes toward Zatko would be quite different 2 years later. Zatko turned whistleblower sued the company and settled for $8 million, and he filed a complaint. We'll skip that part. I'm more want to focus on the censorship. Flashback, the U.S. intelligence community's effort to penetrate Twitter. On December 20th, 2019, Elvis Chan, as we know this guy. Whoa, just shave it, bro. Or put on a beanie. The FBI's liaison to social media companies emailed Twitter executives saying, my colleagues at the Fort had a query for you. The Fort is intelligence community slang for Fort Meade, Maryland, where the NSA is. The IC agency, intelligence community agency, focused on spying through signals intelligence is located. Chan's NSA colleagues wanted to know if Twitter would please change a security policy so that the NSA could better scrub Twitter. Of course, they then recommend their little buddy. I'd recommend Aletheria Group, run by, that's right, Nina Jankowicz. I mean, this is insane. Talking about Trump, how does this affect our approach to Trump? It would be almost impossible for us to refuse to turn them over to Congress. I mean, this is nuts. We can draw a straight line between the initial Stop the Steal narratives and the organizing of what ended up on the 6th. Well, that's what they thought, right? They wanted more vigorous content moderation. They wanted to expand formal and informal partnerships with Amazon Web Services, GoDaddy, or PayPal. On 4/20, nice, a Twitter attorney emails a 32-page document titled Aletheria Group Recommendations. It says that Twitter has an opportunity to become the industry leader in trampling your rights. That's what all this is, right? Right out in the open, not just Twitter, PayPal, the entire internet. The entire internet. Huge shout out to Michael Schellenberger, obviously. They said things like Twitter can't afford to be one of the world's most influential websites. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So it finishes with the paradigm promoted by Jankowicz, Hartman, Zacko, Kaplan, Schlein, Otis, and many others within the intelligence community and its cutouts is fundamentally a military communications paradigm, not a peaceful civilian one. The peaceful civilian approach to fighting misinformation is free speech, as enshrined by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. 3 of us and hundreds of other journalists, authors, and artists the last year described our peaceful approach to fighting misinformation in the Westminster Declaration, which he links to. Free people and free societies do not and should not want their governments waging hybrid warfare, information warfare, or information operations against them. Whether or not the CIA or other agencies controlled the Althea group, it behaved as either a front group for the intermediary of the intelligence community. It could be that individuals in that group with ties to the IC were acting more through common ideology or in service of a political party. We may never know. What we do know is that the goals and behaviors are un-American in spirit and unconstitutional in the law. The CIA and U.S. military employees or contractors must never spy on or run clandestine operations against American citizens on U.S. soil. That so many of them did in order to bring America's most influential social media company under its authority of the intelligence community is a dark moment in American history. Please share this video. Please share this thread. Michael Schellenberger, if you follow him on Twitter. This is wild. Whatever local or future politicians that I will ever consider voting for must embrace the idea of an Internet Bill of Rights, must reaffirm Section 230, add specificity to it, and or at least enforce it. It's wild. I hope you were informed by this video. If you were, please do share it with a friend. And if you haven't yet, subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.